Throughout the years, I've been contacted by brides looking to incorporate their mother's dresses as a part of their ceremony, whether that has been to incorporate it as a final bridal look, as a part of the reception, or even as a part of the bridal brunch. They wanted to have this special piece somehow incorporated in their wedding, and it's oftentimes where I'm lucky enough to have both the mother and the potential bride in the studio with me as they watch these dresses transform from a dress that was created decades ago to a more modernized version of the dress. I use the term heirloom redesign as a way to describe dresses that have been passed down through the generations, either one generation or many generations. And these dresses are being redesigned and or updated to suit the bride's needs for her current ceremony. The dresses can even have sentimental value, as this picture shows a bride whose mother could not be with her on her special day because she had passed before, but she wanted to use the dress as well as add a bit of her own personality to the design. The dresses tend to a beautiful handoff, signifying one bridal generation to the next. I had a bride reach out to me with a dress that her mother had passed down to her that she wanted to incorporate into her wedding ceremony. I believe it was an additional dress. She had her actual gown and she wanted to just add this dress additionally to her bridal ceremony. So she reached out to me, kind of pulled the back just to sort of give me an idea of what was possible for the dress. The dress itself was an original Priscilla of Boston, who was a renowned bridal fashion brand known for its timeless, elegant wedding dresses, founded in the 1940s by designer Priscilla Kidder. The brand gained popularity for its luxury bridal designs and innovative use of fabrics. Although all the original stores have closed, the brand remains celebrated for its classic styles and exceptional craftsmanship. She sent me some inspirational photos. These are not the exact photos, but this is essentially where the inspiration came from, just to see if it was possible to even transform the dress based on the materials that were available. She sent me some sort of close to inspirational pictures for where she was looking to have the design go. I always encourage the brides to come in person so I can have a look at the dress, and this was the first day she showed up with the dress. This is the front. You can tell that there's more than enough fabric to sort of accomplish what we want to do, but you also want to make sure structurally that this isn't like far off base, and because of sort of the boss waist and the sleeves and where everything was placed, I felt like this dress was a good candidate for where she wanted the design to go. Based on our conversation and overview of the dress, as well as the inspirational photos, I sat down and created a sketch for what we were trying to accomplish. So this was the first fitting. I did a lot of it with muslin because these dresses are very sort of fragile. The fabric is often many, many years old, and you don't want to just start cutting away if there's still not enough room. You know, if you need to correct or if you make an error, you want to make sure that things are precise before you actually start cutting into the actual fabric of the dress. So this is just a mock-up using muslin of what the design could potentially be. After that last fitting, I realized the back fits just fine, so we left that the way it was. It is now essentially just moving a few things around the front. We want to remove that because essentially we want to take that piece, use the spare fabric on the skirt to create a new panel. I think the front panel, there was some staining on the front that we wanted to remove, and we wanted a more precise cat ear bodice look, whereas that one was, we were sort of like making it that way by pulling the sleeves onto her shoulders, but it actually wasn't necessarily cat eye. It was more just like a boat neckline. So we just wanted to make that more precise. So I'm going in and just removing everything that I did on the muslin so that I can open up the muslin and use those as my pattern pieces to create her new bodice front. We've got all the pieces cut out. This is the new bodice front here, just basically using the skirt portion of the dress. As you can remember from the initial photo, there was tons of that, so I used that to start to create the bodice portion, and these are all the pieces cut out from the skirt. Here I'm sewing down, so each of those seams had to have a channel of boning sewn into it. So this is just me sewing down all those boning channels, so that in the next video you'll see that I'll be inserting the boning in all those channels so that it has the proper structure that you need for this design. So as a part of her design, she wanted to take these bubble sleeves and these sort of puffy sleeves, and she wanted to turn them into drape sleeves. So fortunately for her, she had tons of fabric, and what she was converting them into was actually slightly smaller, so she had just enough. So what I did was, this is me having that full bubble sleeve opened, just to get an idea of how much space we have here. So that's me fully opening the sleeve, took out all the elastic, all the extra stitching in there to get the maximum amount of fabric from this. I also created a pattern that I had created prior to this of the sleeve. So I'm just basically laying that down and using that pattern to copy essentially the sleeve that she wants from her original dress. I added some pleats on both ends of the sleeves to give it a little bit more volume. So as you can see here, I've pinned them down and I'm just tacking them by hand. Those additional pleats that I added to both ends of the sleeves to give it a more draped look. She wanted a very drapey look, and again, fortunately enough, she did have more than enough fabric to achieve that look. If she didn't, I would have, basically talked to her and let her know this is what the dress is capable of doing, but luckily for her, it was possible. So this is just the bodice of the redesign. As you can see here, the sleeves are done, the front of that bodice is done, it's been boned. I returned the original piping that the very top of the bodice had on it. I always want to keep as many original aspects of the dress as possible as I'm making it more modern, so that way if ever comparing them, you can always say, yeah, this truly was the original dress that was just modified or made more modern. And you don't want to lose some of those aspects. I do think the piping along the neckline was an important aspect of the original dress. So that's just me adding the sleeves onto the bodice after all of the other structure like the boning and the sleeves were added. So this is what it looks like. There's still some work that needs to be done, but this is essentially where we are with the process. If you are loving this look and you want to replicate it for yourself, I do have an actual pattern on both my website and my Etsy shop for you to be able to create something very similar. It's the Cosette pattern with the draped sleeves. So if you're interested in creating something very similar to this, definitely head to the link in the description, and there is a pattern available for this specific top. Okay, so this is what the bodice looks like when it's been taken off the dress form. Underneath the arm, I had to add some fabric because the way it sat with the original sleeves, it left a huge opening. So we had to sort of cover that up a little bit with just adding some additional fabric on top. So now I'm just going to hand sew the sleeves onto the dress. This dress did not come with like the mirrored lining a lot of times you would see. So the whole dress was made without the kind of lining you normally see that would hide these things. And I tried to stick with the original look unless it's absolutely necessary, so which is why you can probably see some of the visible boning and other things you wouldn't normally see. In this photo, it's the bodice on, and I'm still tweaking a lot of things. I'm still trying to figure out a good drape for the skirt. Because the fabric is a little more stiffer and is not necessarily drapey, there is some sort of maneuvering and manipulation that needs to happen to the design to give it that sort of draped look, even though the fabric isn't the typical fabric that you would use to drape with. So there's some manipulation that needs to happen there to sort of give it this drape look, even though I'm not using the best fabric for this look. So once we've settled on that skirt design, again, I do the same thing I've done with the other pieces. I take that pattern that we use from the mock-up, and I go to the actual fabric for the skirt. And here you just see me using the pins and thread markings, or what we call them tailor's tacks, to mimic where the original points were and where they meet, so that I can make sure that my draping is accurate, so it's not as loose and haphazard as you would think it would be. There is still some sort of structure even to a drape. Now I'm moving on to the train portion. Again, I mentioned to the bride, I don't know if there's going to be enough fabric for us to have this train that we sketched out in the original sketch, but if it is, it would definitely be a great addition. And fortunately, we had more than enough fabric to do that, so I did add that train to the back of the design. Once all the major parts of this design have been put together, now we're just going to add those accents. So if there was lace that she wanted to return to the piece, we're putting back that lace where we decided we wanted the lace to go. So at this point, the official structure of the dress is done, and now we're just adding those additional accents to it. This is also me replacing the buttons. She wanted the buttons to return to the back of the dress to go along the back. So this is how I do my button placement, and I use the pins as just a way for me to know where the buttons go without making any actual markings on the actual fabric. I try to reduce the amount of markings that I do on any of my garments, but especially heirloom pieces, only because the fabric is, again, fairly old, and you don't know how it would take to just any sort of cleaning or even using water to sort of like remove a marker or something. So I try to reduce the amount of markings that I put on the garment. Okay, I also wanted to return, the original dress had this beautiful lace hem trim at the bottom of it, and it actually had the designer's name. So if you can see here, if you look a little closer, it does say Priscilla on it. It might be hard to see, but in the lace it does say Priscilla, and I thought that was a beautiful accent to return to the dress. So I wanted to make sure that I removed it from the original hem and that I placed it back on this dress, because again, I thought that was a beautiful piece just from designer to designer that I think, you know, probably made her dress stand out, and I thought it'd be a great way to just pay homage to her, to make sure that that was added back to the dress. Another way I wanted to pay homage to the designer was returning her original tag to the dress. Again, you can see the tag here, Priscilla of Boston. So I wanted to make sure that got returned to the original dress. And I also added my tags to this redesign because I like to think that I did contribute to this new look. So although it wasn't my original design, it was heavily modified. So I also added my tag into the dress in addition to the original designers. So here is the dress all done on my mannequin. My mannequin is a little bit bigger than the actual bride, but you get the gist of it. You get the concept of where we started and where we are now. Typically, when we have a very heavily draped look, you want to use softer fabrics that are more meant for draping. So this was a bit of a challenge for a dress that had more taffeta structure. It's not something you would typically use for draping, but it still achieved the look 100%. And I was very happy with the way this came out. It was totally exactly what the both of us were going for, with the draped look, with the cat eye corset style bodice, the draped sleeves. It really came together just the way I envisioned it. And I like to add that final finishing touch to a lot of my pieces, especially when I'm doing customs or heirloom pieces. I like to save some of the fabric from the piece, and I create these scrunchies. It's sort of like just a way for you to have your original piece, but more accessible to it, because obviously a lot of these pieces you only wear one time and you see them in photos, But just to have that scrunchie sort of like recollects to like, yeah, I had either a piece originally custom made, or I had this bridal redesign, and now I have this scrunchie from the actual fabrics that I use that I can always sort of like go back to and just like remember the experience from having that piece created. So I do like to, with at least my customs and the really heavily redesigned pieces, I like to give them the scrunchie as just a way to say thank you for working with me, and I hope this was a great experience, and I hope this reminds you of just a really fun time and a fun experience. And the next couple of photos and videos you'll see is the bride on her pickup. She's long married. I always wait before, until after I would say the brides have had their day and their ceremony before I upload my video. So she's long married, but this is her picking up the dress or her final fitting, and just sort of like, we're just sort of like taking in, like, it's just, interesting to see how the dress transformed. Her mom was here on that day as well, so it was just really a nice experience to be in the room with them as we had this experience together for the last couple of months, working together, transforming this dress and doing this heirloom redesign. That's a wrap. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in getting a custom piece created, my information is in the link in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos.